This is my latest community update for Mytchett, Frimley Green and Deepcut, and slightly wider sometimes. I wanted to cover off a couple of points before I go into the main updates on the video, and that is the reason why I'm doing these video updates as opposed to my previous format, which is a written format newsletter. And really the reason is my time. I absolutely love writing. It's a skill that I discovered later on in life, and I love doing it, but unfortunately my time is very limited, and particularly with highly complex local issues and updates, it's just easier and quicker for me to record a quick video in order to explain the particular issue. That's very much the case with this update. As you will see if you watch the video, I do go to great efforts to make it easy for you to get quickly to the bits that are of interest to you. So make sure if you're seeing this through my e-newsletter that you use the chapters section so that you can just quickly go to the part of interest. I don't expect you to watch the whole video, you know, I do, like I say, go to great lengths to make that easy for you. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say is that this video, like last week's, will be very deep cut, top heavy in terms of information. That's just because there's just so much going on in Deepcut right now with the Mendenhurst development. A flurry of activity with the development. It's not that I'm not interested in Frimley Green or Mytchett. I'm very much interested in those areas of my county council division, and I visit on multiple times a week. You know, if you live in those areas, you'll regularly see me passing through or stopping on my bike. But yeah, at the end of this video, I will highlight just a couple of the things that I'm working on in those locations too. So do keep an eye out for that. I want to give an update on the environmental improvement works that are happening on Deachcut Bridge Road from the junction of Lake Road, so by the roundabout there, right the way up to the northern access roundabout just beyond the care home. Everyone will be aware of these works. They've been very disruptive, but the hope is, and I'm very confident that once they're all finished, which should be by the end of this month, September, I think residents will be happy with the results. You know, there's been significant investment from the developers of Mendenhurst into that location, and it should be quite nice once it's all done. But there was some uncertainty about the extent of the road resurfacing. So originally, the road resurfacing itself would only go from, I think, the northern access roundabout to the church, or just before the church, not all the way down. So all the pavements were done all the way down, but not the road surface. That was apparently never part of the agreement in terms of the environmental improvement works. Well, the officers, the highways planning officers at Surrey County Council, who work very closely with Skanska in order to you know, first of all, bring about these works, the design and everything else, make sure that they meet highway standards and all the regulatory stuff that's involved. You know, they've been working very, very closely with Skanska, and I'm pleased to report that they have managed to negotiate with Skanska, and this is something that's been going on for quite some time, but they've managed to negotiate with Skanska that now the works, or certainly the resurfacing of the road surface, will now go all the way down to the roundabout. So from the northern access roundabout in Deepcut, so that's that big new roundabout just beyond Dettingen Park, all the way down to the roundabout junction of Lake Road. But it will not include the roundabout itself. I'll talk about that in just a sec. Now, they're going to do, by the end of September, up to Brunswick Road. But the other part of the road, so from Brunswick Road to the junction of Lake Road, that section, although they've agreed they're going to resurface that, which is fantastic news, those works are yet to be programmed, so they'll be at a later date, I think, so beyond September. But it's great news that Skanska have agreed to do that. And on behalf of the community, I want to thank Skanska for being so receptive to the negotiations,
been very open and honest with the discussions, and I think that they realise that the amount of construction traffic, as one argument that's been put forward, has significantly impacted that road, and they have agreed to, like I say, resurface it, which is phenomenal news. Now, the roundabout itself, that is not going to be included in these works. And I know that quite a few residents have reported to me recently that, they're unhappy about the state of that roundabout. I was down there the other day, as you may have seen in one of my video updates, and it is in a dreadful state as well, not just the roundabout itself, but all the curbstones around, the various grass verges, the birdmouth rail on the grass verges there by the village sign. The whole area there needs looking at. It's on my radar. It's now down to me as your county councillor to work with highways planning officers to see if we can find funding for that. It's not going to be impossible, but it might take a little bit of time. And I would just ask that you bear with me while I work on that section of the road to see if we can, find funding and get that area improved there. I'm pretty confident I can achieve that. Just need a bit of time to get it all organised. But great news from Skanska that they've agreed to resurface the road all the way through the village there. Great news. I'd like to thank them and highways planners at Surrey County Council for all their work on behalf of local residents. It's not often I can give good news, but I'm really pleased to be able to do that today. In addition to the resurfacing of Deachcut Bridge Road, there is some other good news, and that is relating to the bus shelter. So you may have noticed in one of my previous updates that the bus shelter on Deachcut Bridge Road, literally opposite Deachcut Garage, is in a bit of a sorry state. It got damaged when they moved it, and it's looking pretty sorry for itself. And the plan was to, fix it up, repaint it, and job done. Well, I met with Skanska and highways planners from Surrey County Council and said, look guys, you've gone to all this effort and investment in improving Deachcut Bridge Road. I think it would be a shame if you left that tatty old bus shelter there. And could I appeal to your better nature to, sit round a table, discuss it, and see if you can find a way of just getting that bus shelter replaced completely with a nice brand new shelter, so that it's in keeping with the rest of the wonderful environment you've created on Deachcut Bridge Road. And actually, they did that. They had that meeting, and I've just had an email this morning to confirm that the bus shelter will be replaced with a brand new one, which is great news. So what also would like to thank Skanska and Surrey County Council highways planners for listening to my concerns on behalf of local residents and acted upon that. It's great news.
Now, I'm going to include in my newsletter information about the temporary road closure, which is going to take place between Friday the 13th of September at 8 p.m. to Sunday the 16th of September at 6 a.m. Massive disruption there. The whole road is going to be closed all the way from the northern access roundabout, which is the new big roundabout with the trees in the middle between Dettingen Park and Camberley Manor Care Home there. The road closure will take place all the way from there, all the way down to Brunswick Road, and even residents on Deachcut Bridge Road will not be able to access or exit with vehicles. So quite a lot of information to share on that. I'll put that in my newsletter. Make sure that you read that if you live in Deachcut or pass through Deachcut at any time, because it is going to be hugely disruptive. The works will go through the night as well, so there may be some noise disruption, although Skanska have assured me that they will keep the noise levels to an absolute minimum if they can. So please do read this update. It's very, very important. And there'll be information on there where, if you live on Deachcut Bridge Road, where you'll be able to park your vehicles and all the rest of it, and how you will access those locations. As part of my update this week, I'm going to include some video footage that I captured during a meeting with a Skanska project manager who showed me around the development behind the wire at Mindenhurst, at the Southern Sangs location. Now, quite a lot of residents have been in contact with me recently asking me what's going on there. You know, they've noticed a lot of footpaths that are being installed and drainage systems and just a huge amount of activity behind the wire. And if you walk down alongside the Basingstoke Canal at the southern end of Deachcut, you'll notice a lot of that work going on there, a lot of heavy plant machinery and all that sort of stuff. So during a meeting with Skanska this week, I had a look round the site. They showed me round. They explained all the work that they're doing there, and I captured some video which I will narrate for this update. My meeting started with Ed, a project manager from Skanska, who showed me around the site behind the wire, and the meeting started at Brunswick Road, which is where the Carla Homes development is now, and that first phase of the Mindenhurst development is complete. So we started there by the guard gate. If you've walked up there, you'll notice the guard gate is actually still there, and we walked along the site towards the officers' mess, and I could see a lot of work there. And Skanska, or Ed from Skanska, explained to me that a lot of the work that's going on there now is clearing the land of all the sort of earth that's been piled up there, and a lot of the concrete from you know, the buildings that have been demolished. All that's been cleared away to make way for the Southern Sangs. We walked towards the officers' mess. There was a lot of new paths that I could see being installed, and also a water attenuation pond, and you can see that in the background of this segment. Now that will only have water in it when there's heavy rainfall, and that all forms part of the flood mitigation measures and runoff from the sort of development at the top of or the north of the village, because that's on higher ground, and the water will run down all the way down into the Basingstoke Canal via these attenuation ponds. You can see more footpaths now that lead all the way down to the Basingstoke Canal, and the quality of these footpaths are superb, and very much like the footpaths you see in the Central Sangs further up in the village. You'll notice a lot of fencing all around, temporary fencing all around this site, and that is to protect it from inquisitive minds, let's say, you know, young people. So if you do have young people that might be wandering around the village, do warn them to stay out of these areas, because, you know, there's a lot of heavy plant machinery and a lot of dangers, and you know, it is a very dangerous site at this time. I had to wear PPE gear while I was walking around. And safety is obviously a primary concern of the developer. See now the old officers' mess building. Now, quite a lot of people will not know that there was actually two officers' mess buildings in Deachcut and a sergeant's mess, which is just off Bellew Blackdown Road there. But this one is hidden very deep into the former Princess Royal Barracks site. And I did attend this location a number of times while the army was still there, and it was a lovely building, and these are being converted into apartments. There's a lot of work going on there right now. These will be very high quality apartments. The grounds that surround this site are absolutely beautiful, so it will be stunning when it's complete. Also in the grounds of the former officer mess building are some more back barns, and these all form part of the wildlife mitigation measures, because there is quite a large back population in Deepcut, and some of those are getting displaced from buildings like the officers' mess, so it's important that that issue is mitigated. It took me up the path north now, going up to the what's now known as Mindenhurst Plateau, and if you've walked around the Central Sangs area, you may notice that they're at the old army assault course, and this path leads up to there, and that's where we're walking now in the video. Really high quality paths that, you know, I was actually quite excited about this when these paths open to the public. You know, it's going to be a wonderful walk from the sort of north of the village down to the south of the village, and yeah, I can imagine a lovely Sunday walk from Dettingen Park through these paths in the future to the Frog Pub. Enjoy a pint or a alcohol-free pint, of course, and a Sunday lunch. And yeah, it's just going to be fantastic when this is all complete. It is quite a steep climb up the hill. I was quite out of breath by the time I got to the top, but yeah, it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for exercise and walking around the village once this is complete. And as we come over the crest of the footpath there, we then enter what is now known as Mindenhurst Plateau. And this is where Carla Homes will be building quite a lot of new homes. One issue that has been encountered by the developers is some contamination of a part of this land here at Mindenhurst Plateau, and you can see the water in the pit there. That is where they've dug and found some contamination. This location used to be part of a transport depot where, you know, fuel and all that sort of stuff had gone into the ground. So they've done quite a bit of mitigation here, or about to do quite a bit of mitigation, I should say, to make sure that is sealed and is safe. And that's all gone through planning now, and the environmental officers at the council to make sure that this land is ready for development. And that has accounted for some of the delays on this particular parcel of land. This is quite interesting, and that is you will see in this segment of the video some black fencing, very low level fencing, right around the area that is going to be developed by Carla Homes. And this fencing is another wildlife mitigation measure, because what a lot of residents might not know is that we have quite a large reptile population in Deachcut in these areas, and quite a diverse range of reptiles as well. So we've got adders, so people won't be surprised by that, beautiful little snakes. We've also got grass snakes, but also common lizards can be found here. So these black fences that are going all the way around is to keep the reptiles from going onto the developable area, and they've put them there well in advance of the development to keep the reptiles out and safe. So yeah, it's nice to see that they're going to such lengths to protect the wildlife. So around this new Carla Homes area, the Mindenhurst Plateau, are some lovely new footpaths which will link up the Central Sands, and that will be the beginning of the Central Sands that will run all the way down to the Basingstoke Canal through the Southern Sands. So yeah, this will all, when this is all complete, this will all link up and form part of a wonderful walkway system, cycle system. I'm really excited about that. So as we walk back down to the Southern Sands on the footpath, we walk past the old transport depot which they're currently demolishing. And you know, I think this actually shows quite well the heavy duty nature of the work that they're doing there. You know, this transport depot dealt with heavy duty military vehicles, very large, very heavy military vehicles, including tanks and trucks and all that sort of thing. And you can see evidence of that here. These that are on their side now and have been dug up, and you can see the staircase is the pits that were there for mechanics to inspect under vehicles. The vehicles would have driven over these pits, and yeah, you can see how large and heavy they are. There's at least two of them here that you can see, but I think there were more than two. I think there were several down there, and just gives you a flavour of the complexity and the heavy duty nature of the work, the demolition work that's going on there, and might give you an idea of why it's taking so long. Further down, we walk down the Sangs footpaths, which sort of stopped abruptly at this fence, and that's because this building here, which forms part of the old barrack blocks and training offices, have not been demolished yet, but I think they're very close to being demolished, and then the footpath will continue through that location and link up to this staircase here made of natural materials and link up to the Southern Sangs. Ed took me down through the footpath all the way down to the Basingstoke Canal, and you can see that links up here. And if you've ever walked along the Basingstoke Canal footpath there, you'll have seen this location. Yeah, once this is all complete, this will be opened up, and this is the sort of most southern end of that footpath that links onto the Basingstoke Canal. As we walk back up to Brunswick Road, you can see the flood mitigation measures, the swales that are being put in alongside the footpaths there, and these will be very useful during times of torrential rain like we've recently had, because this is where all the water will run off from the north of the village all the way down to the southern end of the village into the Basingstoke Canal. And there's another shot here of the water attenuation pond, and that will only be full when there is heavy rain, but all the rest of the time, as you can see, the grass is starting to grow through there and will form part of the natural landscape. Finally, as the meeting draws to a close, we walk past the barrack blocks there that are going to form part of the Wimpy development. These are yet to be demolished, but I was told that the developer Wimpy will be on site very soon, and they've already started bringing in their welfare units, you know, and their temporary buildings, offices and that type of thing. Yeah, so I think we're going to see a lot of activity there very soon. It's very close to the existing new Carla Homes development, which form part of the first phase of the development. So there may be a little bit of disruption to those residents there. And if you do live on that first phase of the Carla Homes development, you have any concerns, do reach out to me, and I'll happily liaise between the developer to make sure that disruption is kept to a minimum. So that concludes my tour around Mindenhurst behind the wire at the Southern Sangs and Mindenhurst Plateau. I'd like to thank Skanska for their time, particularly Ed for showing me around and explaining and answering all my questions. I think it does highlight the scope and the scale, the enormity of that project of the Southern Sangs and Mindenhurst Plateau, and which is why I hope people will get a feel, as I did, for why this is taking so long. But, you know, it is something to be excited about. You know, I'm pretty sure when this is all finished that local residents will really enjoy those footpaths and walking through the Southern Sangs, or certainly from the Central Sangs to the Southern Sangs, and enjoying that network of paths and cycle routes and so on that leads all the way down to the Basingstoke Canal. I think there's a lot to be excited about there. Now, I think the question that most residents will ask me, as is the question I asked Ed, is when will it be open for us all to enjoy? Well, they don't know exactly when, but they anticipate at some point next year. And if you keep an eye on the Mindenhurst website and my email newsletter, I'm sure the project team at Mindenhurst, and so will I, keep residents informed of progress, and hopefully sometime next year I will see everybody out and about enjoying those fantastic walkways. Really is a lot to be excited about. As promised in the introduction to this video update, I'm just going to cover off a couple of the things that I'm working on in Frimley Green and Mytchett. Now, in Frimley Green, residents of Henley Drive, quite some time ago actually, and a meeting was set up by the then Borough Councillor Stuart Black between me and some of the residents down there at Henley Drive, because they had concerns about being able to exit Henley Drive onto Frimley Green Road. They were finding that very difficult because of cars parked and vans, vehicles in general, parked in the parking bays there outside of the school. The parking bays there are there for drop off and pick up provision of the school. But some people are parking there at the evenings, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But it is actually some of those vehicles, especially if they're parked very close to Henley Drive at that end of the parking bay, people trying to get out of Henley Drive do find it very difficult because it impacts the sight lines, particularly if they're turning left. So looking left, it's very difficult to see the oncoming traffic. So I've asked highways officers to look at that and come back with some solutions to that particular problem. They've sent me an interim report based on their findings, which I'm going to send on to residents of Henley Drive very soon. With various options in terms of solutions. The problem is, as is always the case with some things, is that by solving one problem, you create a load of others. And I'm very sort of cognizant of the impact this might have on parents dropping off and picking up their children at the Frimley C of E school. So before I do anything, I have requested a meeting with the head teacher of the school to discuss the various options and to see what, if anything, the impact will be on parents dropping off and picking up their kids. And I'll also meet with residents of Henley Drive to see if the solutions that highways officers have come up with, meet with their approval and they think will solve the problem. And then one way or another, I'm going to have to find, the most acceptable solution to everybody. The other thing, of course, is that the solutions will come with a cost. There will be a financial implication. It will be up to me to find the money for that. Never easy in these cash constrained times, but not impossible. Let's see if we can come up with the best possible solution. But I have been asked by residents to look into this matter. I've now done that. It's now making a decision on what is going to be the most favourable outcome to everybody concerned. And now in Mytchett, one of the things that has been raised is the access to the caravan park, which is behind the Mytchett Centre, and the state of the road there. A number of residents have raised this with me recently, and that is something else that I'm looking into. We do have to consider particular residents with disabilities, mobility issues, that type of thing, to make sure that that road is of a sufficient standard in order to enable access and egress to the caravan park there. I think the tricky issue here is that the road is not owned by the Highway Authority. My understanding is that it's owned by Surrey Heath Borough Council, but I might have that wrong, and that is something that I'm looking into right now to try and find the best solution for residents that live in the caravan site there. So that's my update completed for Mytchett, Frimley Green and Deepcut. Apologies it's so long this week and so Deepcut top heavy, but I think you'll understand why that is. And as always, if you have any local issues that you want to bring to my attention and want me to look into for you, please do get in touch. Drop me an email. That's the best way to contact me at paul.deach@surreycc.gov.uk.